And you're good to go.
All right, I'd like to welcome everyone to the September meeting of the North Sonoma Valley Municipal Advisory Council. Call the meeting to order. And please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. And do we have a flag available or not? If not,
just give me one moment.
Pretend. All right, join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to
the flag
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thanks. And now I know if my wife sometimes is, I know people who've sung on a choir on Zoom and it doesn't work very well.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay, just a few notes to start with. So question and answer and chat are turned off for the meeting. When public comment is opened, if you're a member of the public, please use the raise hand function on Zoom and we'll recognize you and promote you to speak. If at any time it appears that our meeting has been hacked, we'll immediately terminate the meeting and reschedule for a future date. Council, as I think most of us know, but council members Narda Morgan and Eagles will be absent, and Vice Chair Doss will arrive at about 6:30. So congratulations, everybody. We made it to a year. We're 1 year old. Yay, happy birthday. Oh. So that means that we're just going from crawling to walking. So, and just so you guys know, Damon and I are going to be working on the annual report and get that out by the end of the year. So we'll be tapping the different ad hocs for, just content on what's been done over the past year. And also an update from Clyde Galantine from Public Works about the Arnold Carquinez intersection. So he submitted a work request to move the handicapped ramp sign to the black railing to the right of the stairway, install a no parking next 15 feet on the post where the handicap sign was, and replace the stop sign and stencil no parking on the red curb. So it'll be well marked. Well, before we get started, let me just, let's see. Actually, we don't have a, let's see, where does the roll call come in here? Should we do that now?
Yes, that'd be great.
Okay. So I'm Chair Arthur Dawson. I'm here, obviously. Councilmember Newhouser.
Here.
Councilmember Dickey.
Here.
Councilmember Handren.
Here.
Councilmember Cooper.
Here.
And Councilmember Eagles. We know she's not going to be here. And Councilmember Narda Morgan won't make it. And Councilmember Doss will be arriving in about an hour or so. All right, just a quick little intro here. So I just want to thank everybody, members of the public, community organizations, the press, and the North Sonoma Valley Municipal Advisory Council members for your participation and engagement in this meeting and your dedication to the community. For those of you who are with us for the first time, the North Valley Municipal Advisory Council serves the communities of Eldridge, Glen Ellen, and Kenwood. As the most local arm of county government, we represent people who live and work outside of incorporated cities like Sonoma or Santa Rosa. We are, in a sense, a country town council. Like other advisory councils in Sonoma County, we were established by the Board of Supervisors to act as a two-way communication channel. The MAC serves as our community voice at county government, as a means for us to learn about and access county resources, and as a place to identify challenges and opportunities and innovate solutions in partnership with our supervisor. Our bylaws limit us to issues concerning transportation, health and human safety, community projects, and emergency preparedness. Others can be added at the request of our supervisor. There are no limitations on subject matter during the public comment section at the beginning of the meeting. So members of the public are welcome to speak on any matter of their concern. Okay. Let's see, are there any amendments or corrections to the August minutes? And I'll just say that I made one that I emailed to Hannah. It was correcting the names of people who sent letters about the intersection. And just a note on that, I think that might be one of the drawbacks of using the automatic text, is it doesn't pick up things like names very well. So it might be a good thing just to double check. Anybody else have any corrections or amendments?
No.
Okay. So tonight we're also going to, when we approve the minutes, we're also approving the procedures for MAC letters that we talked about last time and edited. So just so that's clear. So do I have a motion to approve the August MAC minutes?
I'll approve.
Okay. Okay. So Jed moves that we approve the minutes, and do we have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor of approving the August minutes, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So the minutes are approved, including the procedures for MAC letters. All right. Now we're going to move on to public comment. So we haven't received any written public comments, so it'll just be people who are here to speak. If anyone from the public would like to speak, please raise your hand on the Zoom, and Hannah will note that you wish to speak. And we're going to limit comments to 2 minutes, and there will be a timer so you can be aware of how long you're taking. So we'll hear public comment, and then after that we'll respond after all the comments have been taken. So Hannah, do we have any public commenters?
Just giving folks a few moments, but I am not seeing any raised hands. And still seeing none.
Okay. All right. Well, if any public is out there that would like to comment, please, this is your last chance. Okay, we're going to move on to public comment. This might be a really short meeting. Okay, well, now it's time for us to hear from our supervisor, Susan Gorin, was instrumental in setting up the MAC, and we appreciate all her efforts in many ways on our behalf in the North Valley.
And Arthur, I appreciate you and all of the members of the MAC. Thank you for your volunteer efforts. Your contributions to the community are great ideas and questions, and I can't do the effective job that you're doing in reaching out to the community and trying to get their information and perspectives on what's going well and what's not going well. Just an update from yesterday's meeting, and I may not stay with you the whole night unless it's really short. It was an 11-hour meeting. I love these marathon meetings. And it may be worth going onto the board agenda to look at the very long 200 and something page report for the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA. We knew when, and we thank our legislators at the national level and President Biden for proposing this. And Sonoma County was awarded by population $96 million. Yay, happy days are here again. It seems like a lot of money. And yet the needs are so great at the county and the community. So what we did was right off the top, we needed about $16 million to support our COVID programs and staffing. So that came right off the top. And then we asked our departments for their thoughts on what should be considered from the county perspective, what the needs are at the county, and recognizing that not everything on a wish list is actually eligible for the ARPA funding. But we know, and I didn't total it up, but there are a lot of requests from the county, various departments, regional parks, water districts, Sonoma Water. We need to move the public morgue and coroner's office to the county campus, $27 million. really, that's obscene. Oh, did I say that? Maybe I did. And but it goes on. And our employees have suggested premium pay for many of them that have worked in the shelters and in the parks and been exposed to COVID working with folks. And that was not recommended for moving forward. But there was another item recommended by the Economic Development Board to consider a stipend-like program for low-income residents, documented, well, it has to be documented, I guess, because it's federal funding, similar to what they were proposing in Stockton. And so that is also on the list. We referred that to a community discussion because we know that the community has needs. Oscar Chavez and Alegria de la Cruz have been working with now an equity advisory committee to talk about what that would look like in the community. How do we establish criteria to judge requests from the community? But all of this will be discussed at community meetings in October. So when we get the information about when the community meeting will be, probably virtually in the first district, we will let you know. And so you might think about that, but in the meantime, if you have difficulty going to sleep tonight, you might look through the 200 and something pages of that report. It's dense and yet really and short on specifics, but really fascinating about the various projects that we could use that funding for. What else did we talk about? We appointed several people to the Airport Land Use Commission. This is the commission that reviews development proposals around the airport because we're beginning to have some friction between residents and the increasing number of flights going in and out of the Charles Schulz Airport. And there was a little political tussle in those appointments, but always fascinating at the Board of Supervisors. We had a very interesting discussion on the micro kitchens. This was authorized by state legislation, and counties and communities can opt into this so that people working from home could use their home kitchen to cook dinners or other meals and then serve them in their homes or encourage the community to come and pick them up. This was a way for especially some of our people of our BIPOC community or low-income community can raise some funds while they're caring for children's and without starting a very expensive brick and mortar restaurant. The city of Sonoma was not interested in opting into this, but the Board of Super and some of the Santa Rosa said, well, maybe. I'm really concerned that if there are quite a few permits taken out in the Springs area. We already have impacts from vacation rentals. Are we going to have impacts from impromptu kitchens in people's backyards and driveways and streets? So I'm advocating a go slow approach, but we are discussing some of the details perhaps and bring it back as a pilot project early next year. There are counties that have started this slowly. There are not a great number of permits taken out, but we may at some point when this comes back to the board, have a discussion with the MACs about what do you think? And what should we be concerned about? So that was the most fascinating discussion. We had two items on there that were specifically Glen Ellen Springs issues. One was the approval of the Verano Hotel and Mid-Pan Housing Project on Verano Avenue in the former Paul's Resort opposite Maxwell Farms. And that was at the very end of the meeting, but and it was complicated because of an affordable housing developer in contract with a hotel. And we wanted to make sure at the county level that the affordable housing component was actually constructed and not just the hotel, leaving the land fallow. I had less of a concern than that, but we're still trying to iron out some wrinkles, but that has been approved. Now, the most controversial thing, Ariel said, you're going to have to tell them about that. I said, really? I'm so glad it's virtual. So we had a discussion about the Glen Ellen dispensary. And quite frankly, my mind had not been made up until the very end. I listened carefully, read through all the letters, a lot of the neighbors. Some of the neighbors had hired Bob Hirosh, an attorney. We went through all of the specifics. I know that this dispensary had a mixed reception at the CAC. It went through the Board of Zoning Adjustments on a 5-0 vote. And here are some of the concerns that were expressed by many neighbors. They were concerned about traffic impacts on Madrone and Arnold. Absolutely could be. I suspect not. They were concerned about parking on Madrone because the parking impacts on Madrone, especially from the Madrone apartments, are pretty significant. And I think there's enough space at the rear of that, which is where the entrance of the dispensary is, to accommodate the parking for the customers. People expressed concerns about the location of the bus stop where children got on and off the bus. That was most concerning to me. And I really tried to noodle that around to figure out what that would look like. I'm not convinced that students are going to be necessarily attracted to attempt to enter into the dispensary because you have to be buzzed in, you have to show identification, you have to meet the age requirement, and they have pretty heavy security during business hours. So I don't think that that's a problem. I don't think that the kids will be hanging out, loitering in the parking lot. And again, they have security to try to move anybody forward. Customers are not allowed to consume on the site. They pick up their product and they drive, walk, take the bus, take a bicycle away. So that is a pretty standard in all dispensaries, and I've toured a number of them, so I know absolutely that the impact on the surrounding neighborhoods from potential users is less than feared. But in the end, I did support it. The board supported it. The other issue that was of relevance to the folks in the community were the setbacks. We had specified a 100-foot setback from dispensaries to the residential areas. No dispensaries met the setback requirements. All of the dispensaries that have been approved on less than 100-foot setback. Staff did a pretty good job of really analyzing what was immediately surrounding the dispensary site. You look across the street, Arnold Drive, well, it's not too much of an impact on the properties that are located at the top of the hill. Looking across Madrone, it's still a fair amount of traffic, not necessarily a lot of impact on the neighbors there, some potentially. And the Madrone apartments, as the crow flies, it's less than 100 feet, but as you walk around the block, it's close to 100 or not as small as what you would think. So I had some real concerns, but what I did put into it was I confirmed they are not allowed to do advertising other than a sign. So no neon lights, no come on in with hula dancers or waving palm trees. And they absolutely have to have a security plan that meets the county's needs and requirements. And I asked to have that come before the Board of Supervisors for a review 2 years after it starts operation. So if there are impacts, I'd like to know from you what kind of impacts you are experiencing or observing, and that will go on the administrative record. We could jerk the permit if in fact there are problems with the dispensary. The county has a cap of 9 dispensaries in the unincorporated areas. And we know that Spark Dispensary in the city of Sonoma is gutting their building and renovating that, and probably will be operational in another 3 to 4 months or maybe sooner than that. There is a dispensary application pending in Kenwood Village and one pending at Fremont Drive. And I'm not sure whether there are other pending dispensary applications, but we have a maximum of 9. This was number 7. So we're not going to have many more dispensary in the unincorporated areas. And in fact, it may be, we may reach the cap before we even get to the Kenwood dispensary or the Fremont dispensary. So there it is. Okay, go ahead, throw your rotten tomatoes at me. This is really hard. And James Gore leaned over and he said, I know this must be hard for you because you have a lot of constituents that are really concerned about this. And yes, which is why I've been very careful about reading all of the letters and emails and had my own conversations with folks. So do the best we can. And yeah, you know, it is what it is.
Thanks, Susan. I appreciate all the thought that you put into that.
And also, let me give you a report on the SDC. There's not much to report other than there's been flying proposals back and forth from members of the PAT. That's not their role, is to create proposals and alternative. Their role is to actually provide advice to the land use planning team, who is charged with creating the alternatives. So we're going to try to pull it away from the yin and yang and the chatter among some of the PAT members. And although the alternative release has been pushed back a little bit, now looking at November is just a heartbeat away. So hopefully we will have the alternatives released quickly and then moving forward with community meetings.
What's the ultimate timeline for when the alternative?
Well, the state legislators want to have the final draft like yesterday because they intend to release an RFP to developers once they receive the final administrative draft. And so makes me a little nervous, but nevertheless, they state pretty emphatically they have no more funding in the budget to maintain security, maintain the maintenance of the site, and to keep the campus open with a thinly veiled threat that if we don't hop to, then they're going to fence off the campus. I don't know that they will be able to keep us all off the campus, but nevertheless, you know what I just told you.
Thanks. Anyone have any questions or comments for Supervisor Gorin? Yeah, Councilmember Dickey.
I'm curious about the $96 million that was allocated to Sonoma County. Do those dollars have to be devoted to infrastructure development? Because part of what you were discussing seemed to be social infrastructure development as opposed to something like, I don't know, broadband expansion or traffic mitigation out in along 37, anything like that. So I'm wondering if there are restrictions on the dollars.
I would encourage you to go on to the PowerPoint presentation with the agenda at yesterday's board meeting. It's about 30 pages long, and it does go through some of the criteria, what the projects can be used for, which is broader than what you think. It certainly can be used for infrastructure projects. Broadband is part of infrastructure, and there is a $12 million proposal for broadband with very little detail other than staffing for 3 years on what that would actually achieve. And I think the board expressed a concern about, are we going to really overly invest in infrastructure and not in human services and resources, or tip the scale the other way? I think there are legitimate, and we may have some disagreements on the board. I feel so strongly about broadband and other infrastructure issues, and we don't have another source of funding for that. But yet I know that our community is hurting. Our nonprofits will be proposing expenditure plans. And again, that is part of the equity task force and the community conversation. So whatever we propose is not going to be, we're not going to have enough funding to cover probably half of it. So we have to make some hard choices.
Thank you.
Susan, would you describe in a little more detail the stipend idea? You said sort of like the city of Stockton.
I'll go in my magic notebook, which I brought home.
I don't need a lot of detail. I'm just curious. I think I've heard about this a little bit, but I don't know that much about it.
You love my notebook. They provide us with a lot of tabs and a lot of paper. So let me quickly see if I can get some more detail on that. And again, we've referred that for consideration with it's called the Universal Basic Income Pilot Project.
Okay.
It's proposed by Human Services, not Economic Development Board. So sorry, let me quickly go to this tab. It's a preliminary proposal, eligible for ARPA funding. Oh, wait, not that. That's the facing page. And it really talks about poverty in Sonoma County. It's not escaped the scourge of poverty nor inequity. And let's see if I can quickly, 11% of the children are currently living below poverty level. And the mix of minority and ethnicity of our population. And it's talking about the existing programs like CalFresh, CalWorks, TANF, the Earned Income Tax. And Sonoma Works program provides comprehensive wraparound supports for family, including monthly cash aid grant, subsidized childcare, payments for transportation, car repairs, etc. And they give you an allotment of $680 per month. But there are only 1,200 families currently enrolled in the Sonoma Works program. And the state estimates about 60% of eligible California families enroll, so that an additional 800 families are likely to be eligible for Sonoma Works. So it goes on talking about the universal basic income, which is like the stimulus program that we were dispensing previously. And the city of, you might look up the city of Stockton, launched the Economic Empowerment Demonstration Initiative, SEED, and they randomly selected 125 residents to receive funding, $500 a month. So it's completely unconditional for those selected, but boy, that's not a lot of 125 stipends is not great. But the city of Oakland also is offering $500 a month to 600 families earning below the median household income. So I encourage you to go on to talk about what other communities are doing. You also might pay attention to the living wage ordinance review that's going to be on next week's agenda. I just had a briefing with Marty Bennett. I said, Marty, when do you retire? He said, well, I'm aiming towards that, but it's not now. And so we're reviewing a number of the elements of a living wage ordinance that may not have been implemented 6 years ago. And at the most basic level, looking at how we should increase the wage level to correspond to the consumer price index over the last 6 years. So pay attention to that. It should be a good discussion, but that's just direction. There are no decisions given next week.
That's encouraging. I've read some good things about the universal basic income and how much of a difference that can make. And so glad to hear it's being thought about in Sonoma County. Any other questions or comments for Supervisor Goring? Yeah, Councilmember Newhouser?
Yeah, can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just think it's notable that no one's slung any tomatoes your way.
Oh, you'll do
so
it at home. You'll curse me out.
I don't know. I don't have a lot of energy around it. I think the only thing I would object to is if the smell was, curling my tongue. But I mean, was anybody lining up?
This is not cultivation. This is selling packaged products.
I know, but
So
it still can
there
be
is,
something.
when
But-
I visited dispensaries, unless they're growing plants, there is not a smell,
Oh, well, there you go. Everything's packaged up tightly, I'm sure.
right?
But anyway, regarding this 96 million, I'm also really curious about this. So I have a two-part question. One is, have the feds provided any guidelines or a suggested ratio of allocations to different needs? And I'm wondering if it would be helpful for the county to do so if the feds aren't offering that, because given there are so many needs right now. I mean, we could put all of that just to economic recovery, immediate needs, right? Just to keep everyone fed and housed. But I can't help but think that we should also be addressing or put some of it toward longer term goals. I mean, given that we have to have such a narrow window for making significant changes to our lifestyles to address climate change, seems like, that we could devote a good chunk of that to going toward infrastructure to either adapt for climate change or to address the impacts of human influence on climate change. So
I would encourage you to think about that deeply and thoughtfully. And when the community meetings come around in October, you might make some suggestions regarding allocations for that specifically. And since you mentioned climate change initiative, it was just announced today that we've hired Barbara Lee as our climate coordinator for the county. She's no stranger to Sonoma County. She's coming back to us, but she has been working in Sacramento and doing some really fine work. So I'm excited about that. Anna Yip has been hired a month or two ago for the climate analyst position. So we are ready to start getting to work with the Regional Climate Protection Authority. Linda Hopkins, I assigned Linda Hopkins as chair of that climate ad hoc. They had their first meeting today. So we are on climate change. And so I hope that we will be making some progress, even if it is just 1,000 boats all sort of rowing in the same direction.
And when is the public meeting for this?
For the ARPA funding, those dates haven't been announced yet. There will be one in each district. And while we're talking about virtual town hall meetings, I was not happy with the way that the article on homelessness came out in the Sonoma IT. And there was a lot unsaid that should have been said. So we are planning with BJ Bischoff a virtual town hall on homelessness with the city, with the county, with our homeless services organizations in the county, giving some space to the Ecology Center on the management of Montini and the cleanup of the creeks and Montini from homeless encampments. So stay tuned. I believe it's October 27th from maybe 5 to 6:30, and we'll send you out that announcement and the Zoom link for that.
Great. Any other questions or comments for Supervisor Gordon? Yeah, Councilmember Cooper.
I just want to make one comment regarding the dispensaries. The guy that built my house over 2 years also built out 2 of Mercy's dispensaries in Cotati and the one on San Jose Avenue. And I was very interested just because I always thought it would be kind of a sleazy, environment to those areas. And so I kind of watched it pretty close. And I watched after they've been open, one for, I think, a year, the other one maybe for 6 months. And I've been actually pretty impressed. You go into them, they seem like a pharmacy. They're very clean, and not a lot of people hang out that are kind of seedy type of people. It doesn't seem to attract the same kind of, downtown and Railroad Square, that kind of thing. So I just want to say that I've watched them come into being, and kind of gone over there a fair amount to kind of looking for the seediness to complain, actually. But
Thanks, Jed, for that comment. I know many people in Sonoma Valley travel over to the Mercy Wellness in Cotati for CBD. And in Oakmont, we have a 200-member strong cannabis club. And many people talk about the medicinal benefits of CBD. So it's not, gee, let's just toke up and get high wherever we are. This is a professionally run organization. When I was on the council for the city of Santa Rosa, I was curious, like you, about dispensaries. And I toured the dispensary that was owned and managed by Jewel Matheson, the late wife of council member Mayor Ken Brown. I was very impressed with their organization. And that was just a stone's throw away from a residential neighborhood on the other side of their fence. And it was handled well. The security was tight. I really got in to look at the products. And so I have a little bit of faith in the professionalism of the industry, but I will be watching.
Yeah, okay. That's all. I just wanted to add that.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.
Good perspective. All right, any other comments or questions? Then I think it's time to move on to the election of the chair and the vice chair.
Through the chair. Sorry, can we do public comment on the last
Oh,
item?
sorry, yes. Any public comments on Susan Gorin's update for us?
And I'm looking at our attendees now, and I'm not seeing any raised hands.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. I will put myself on mute, but I'll sort of lurk in the background.
Okay, thank you, Susan. So now we're moving on to the election of the chair and the vice chair. This happens every year. So we'll start by electing the chair. Does anyone have nominations for the chair? And you can nominate yourself if you want.
I nominate Arthur Dawson.
Second.
Agree. Yes.
Thanks. I appreciate the vote in good faith. I didn't have to nominate myself. Thank you. That would have looked a little sleazy, right? So I
You have to
appreciate
call
that.
for a vote.
Yeah. So I
do
think
you want
any other nominations for chair? How about somebody who's not here? No, just kidding. All right. So yeah, we just let's see. I think it's just a vote on the chair. So all in favor of me continuing as chair, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Guess I'll
Aye.
vote as well. All right, passed. So I will continue in the position of chair for the next year. And then and I think Damon is stepping down. So he's served for a year as vice chair, so we do need a new vice chair. So do we have nominations for vice chair? Yeah, Mark.
I nominate Jet.
I'm just an alternate, just so we, so nominate Mark. No, I am just an alternate.
Hannah may choose to comment. Jed, before you got on, we talked about the fact that Arthur and I interviewed Susan Oldroyd from Kenwood, and she has graciously accepted an appointment to the MAC. She will become the alternate, and I think you just got a promotion.
Oh, okay, well, Thank you.
Todd?
I can actually jump in here if you don't mind. There are actually two alternate positions. So the vacant position was also an alternate wherein Melissa Dowling had stepped down. So if that helps to clarify.
But Jed will move.
I
Full
gotta
council
be honest, I'm really new at this. I'm finding my way through. I'm learning from everybody here. So I look at anybody on here, seems like they would be better prepared than me. I'm not being artificially humble. I'm happy to do anything, but pretty new.
Well, I don't, from what I can tell, the position of vice chair is not too complicated. It doesn't require a whole lot of time. So it's attending an agenda setting meeting a couple weeks before the main meeting, and then calling the roll at the main meeting. And then if for some reason the chair can't make it, then the vice chair takes over. And Hannah makes these great chair notes. If I can get them on my camera.
Yeah.
I can't. Where the heck are they?
Yeah,
Anyway, she makes some
I'm
great notes to
sorry.
follow. That's why if I'm always looking down, I'm reading my chair notes. So it's quite easy to follow the crumbs.
Through the chair, can I jump in one more time?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't think I was clear enough earlier, but I was just double checking, and I don't believe an alternate can be the vice chair.
But we understood that Jed would become a regular council member after.
So the new council member is taking the second of two alternate positions. So there, Jed Willis or Councilmember Cooper is still an alternate as well.
Oh, I see. So,
Sorry about that.
Okay, well, I guess you're off the hook for now, Jed.
I'll accept that graciously. Thank you.
So I have a question. Is Damon stepping down from the MAC or just as vice chairman?
Just as vice chair, as I understand it. When he started a year ago, he told me like right away that he was only going to serve as one term on the MAC. And so I'm not too surprised that he's stepping down after a year as vice chair. He does a lot of other meetings, and I think he wants to spend more time with his grandkids. That's the sense I got.
What about a lady? I don't know. Again, I'm sorry, I'm a new guy, but what about anybody here is qualified, other than me, but what about one of the ladies? I work with Kate and Angela on our ad hoc. I know them kind of. But Vicky, I might be a good idea to have a lady.
I
So-
agree.
I agree.
Well,
Good.
can I nominate Kate, even though she's not here?
Good move.
Somehow I don't think we can do that, but well, I would second a nomination of Vicky as vice chair if she would accept it. Probably adds another maybe 1 hour a month of time.
Okay, I mean, thank you, I guess.
I mean, I'm not against making Vicky the interim vice chair, and then we can check in with Kate when if we want to do this again next month. Would that fit in with the rules?
Well, if Vicky's willing, let's just vote her in.
Well, I certainly wouldn't want to take the position from someone else who wants to, who has a burning desire to serve, so.
I don't think Kate would be,
I mean, I think Vicky would be great, actually, so I would enjoy serving with you as the chair and vice chair.
Well, go for your confidence.
Yeah, Councilmember Newhouser?
Well, I just want to support Vicky in either accepting the nomination or not, but feeling comfortable to decline and moving forward with a vote if you so accept. Otherwise, tabling this until the next meeting when more people are present.
Sounds like a
Yeah,
good idea.
I don't want to drag this out and make things difficult for us, so I'm happy to accept. Thank you very much.
Great. All right. All in favor of Vicky as the vice chair for the next term? Raise
Aye.
your hand or say aye. Aye. All right. Congratulations.
Thank you, Vicky.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see. Do we need to call for public comment? We only had one nomination for each position, so.
You can, it's always best to call for public.
Okay, sure. If anyone from the public would like to comment on the nominations for chair and vice chair, now's your chance.
And looking to our attendees, I see no raised hands.
All right, thanks. All right, we have our chair and vice chair for the next year. Okay, and now we have Mary Carmen Reyes and Alvaro Gonzalez from the Sonoma Valley Community Health Center, who are going to give us a presentation.
And they'll be joining us as panelists shortly.
Okay.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. Hi, Mary Carmen and Alvaro. I'm Arthur Dawson. I'm the chair of the Municipal Advisory Council. And thanks for coming. And I really appreciate, I went to the clinic that was at Abbott's Passage a couple months ago. I appreciate you guys doing that and being there.
Yes, no, thank you so much for collaborating with us. And that's one of the reasons that we're here tonight. And gonna let Alvaro. Yeah, okay. So just, we know you guys have a busy agenda, and we're here tonight to in lieu of a National Health Center Week, which was on August 8th through the 14th. And one of our the things that we do during National Health Center Week is do partner recognition. And so we have this for you that we will want to arrange to give you in person. So we'll arrange with Hannah and Arthur.
Nice.
But we do want to have this recorded, and we want to officially give this to the North Sonoma Valley MAC as one of our partners in supporting the Sonoma Valley Community Health Center during this past year. We couldn't do our COVID-19 outreach and vaccine outreach without your support. So we want to say thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I didn't expect that. Yeah. We're glad to have you guys as partners too. Yeah, Alvaro?
Thank you. Well, we thank you very much for all your help. And as you mentioned, you guys made it possible to have the pop-up vaccination clinic at the winery. And we will be present at the Glen Ellen Fair as well.
Great.
So there's a lot of work to do, but without the partners as yourself, we shouldn't, we cannot be able to do it. We're part of the community and we need the community to make a success. So thank you so much for your support. And again, like, we're here for you, whatever is needed, and please reach out anytime for any needs. And thank you so much again for your support, and we're looking forward to the future.
Thank you, Alvaro. And and we get some candy as well.
Make sure that you share with your council members. Look, Mark already wants to go get the meet with you, Arthur. Look. So you'll get one of these also. So thank you to all the members for approving the vaccine clinic at Abbott's Passage. Vicky, thank you so much for your support.
And thank you, and please, consider our door always open for anything that you need, and I appreciate you working with us, and we want to serve this community. We want to serve everyone in the community as much as possible. So any ideas or needs you have, just please get in touch.
Thank you all.
And thank you for the gifts.
Thank you. Well, Hannah, expect an email from us.
Wonderful.
So we can arrange an in-person delivery.
Great.
Okay. Thank you.
We have to assume before
Thanks.
we eat the chocolate,
Yes.
by the way.
Yes.
Do we have to share?
Hoard them there, Arthur.
Well, nice
Thank
to
you,
see the
guys.
rest of you virtually, but thank you again, everyone.
I think we should pass them out at the Glen Ellen Fair, and if you're not there,
Miss
must be
Gorin, I
present
don't
to
know if
win.
you, Supervisor, I don't know if you saw that the MAC is getting one too, North Sonoma Valley MAC. Supervisor already got one too. We got some, we'll be posting some pictures.
And it was lovely. We had a great visit from both of you, and they presented the plaque to me, and I gave it to Karina because she's been doing such an amazing job on all of this work. But we are so grateful to have the health center as part of our community partners, because they're just pulling out all stops in providing services to the community. So thank you, Mary Carmen.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Our team here, we couldn't do it, without each other, and we couldn't do it without you.
And I want to just acknowledge Councilmember Handren for really doing all the footwork to set it up. We appreciate that.
Oh, yeah. I just really would like to thank both Alvaro and Mari Carmen. You've worked tirelessly in this vaccine effort, in any way that we can support you, continue to support you. We're certainly willing. Thank you for all your efforts.
Likewise, thank you.
And have a good night.
All right, you too. Thank you very much.
Have a good night. Thank you.
All right, well, that was sweet. I wasn't quite sure what we were gonna what that was gonna be, but that was cool. I guess I didn't ask for public comments, but I think mostly it was just a presentation. So, okay, so now we're coming to the funding request. So the outreach committee, which is myself and Councilmember Handren, are requesting $60 to cover booth space for the Glen Ellen Fair. And I think we put together the form. So I don't know if I think that got sent around. So does anyone have any questions or whatever concerns about that? Or
Does that include the chocolate?
you have to show up. Yeah, the chocolate will be at the booth. So that's why we have to okay this money for the booth.
I've been limiting myself to one tasty little morsel a day, and maybe share it with that guy that I live with.
So just to mention, right now we have it's just myself and Kate Eagles who are going to be at the booth, and I have other commitments that day, so I can probably only spend a couple hours there. So if anyone else would be willing to spend an hour or two, Councilmember Handren's not going to be in town, so otherwise she would be there. So you don't have to say yes right now, but if anyone else would like to come and spell us for a bit, that would be great. And Councilmember Cooper, have you been to the Glen Ellen Fair? Just out of curiosity? No? It's a fun event. You should just come sit in the booth for a couple hours and enjoy the people of the nearby metropolis of Glen Ellen.
I think what's the date?
The 10th of October.
Yeah, I really am gonna be going to Catalina with my.
Oh, take us with you.
So there you go. I really am.
Yeah.
I do have some good news concerning Glen Ellen. I've been talking with you, Arthur, and any number of folks about the sad state of repair of the paving of the two bridges in Glen Ellen. And I've now been working with a third of the directors of transportation and public works on this. And the good news is, yay, Caltrans and TPW have been coordinating. They will be repaid, but they didn't say when. It's coming.
Thanks, Susan. So just to make sure we finish this up, do I have a motion to approve the $60 for the booth space at the fair?
I move that we approve the $60 for the fair.
And Damon, and we have a second from Councilmember Cooper. Councilmember Doss, we're just about to vote on approving the $60 expenditure for the space rental for the Glen Ellen Fair. And Councilmember Newhouser, did you have a comment? Yeah, you're still.
I was just gonna request a discussion before we call for a vote.
Any thoughts? Issues?
Well, I was just wondering if that's enough. I mean, that doesn't even cover snacks. I mean, what is that? Just the booth cost? Are you sure that's, I don't know.
Well,
Just-
I mean, maybe we should have add more to it, but that's all I requested. So I don't think we can, probably can't add funds to it at this point. I should have thought of that.
Are you gonna have anything to hand out? You know, a little swag?
Well,
for
the first
North Valley Mac?
10 people get a piece of chocolate. Yeah, I don't know if does the county have swag to pass out?
Oh yeah, water rationing stuff.
Uh-huh.
But maybe the county's gonna have a booth there for that. Is that correct, Susan?
Are we on mute? I'm not sure that the county will have a booth, but if you want to hand out drought information, I bet we can supply some drought information and maybe some gizmos for you to hand out.
And Angela will probably still have her signs too. So we could probably have a stack of those.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Hannah and Ariel will work on that to see what kind of goodies we can give away.
We could also have those evacuation tags there to give.
Oh, yeah.
I've still got a pile of those if you want to. I think like 3 neighbors went and got them, enough for everybody in the neighborhood. So it's like we got like 100 of them. But yeah, so we could definitely hand those out. You know, just stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
You still got to get snacks though. All right, vote for your $60.
Any other comments? Any public comments? See you at the booth. Yeah.
And I'm seeing no raised hands amongst our attendees.
Okay, I think that was a no public comments. So so all in favor of the $60 expenditure for the booth at the Glen Ellen Fair, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
And anyone opposed? Apparently not. Okay, passed. $60 for a booth rental. Okay. Let's see. Now we're moving on to reports and announcements from council members and ad hocs. So top of my list is the Sonoma Valley Citizens Advisory Council, which Matt Dickey is on. So he'll give that report.
I did not attend the last MAC meeting, so I'll go back to 2 CAC meetings. We had a proposal from the Glen Ellen Inn for basically abandoning their restaurant and letting the entire facility become a hospitality facility. I expressed some concerns that they at least have zoning that prohibits it being both a restaurant and basically a small inn. But in any event, it was passed. So I think in the future, we will see that going forward. The Bertrands are pretty devoted to not being in the restaurant business any longer. And so I'm sure the plans will be made available to the public at some point. They had some preliminary drawings, but there were some setback issues that they'll have to address. And then our last meeting was almost entirely devoted to the Amazon. Well, I should not call it that, as the applicant was not referring to it as an Amazon warehouse. At the corner of 8th Street and 121. we voted against the rezoning of the facility to become a transit center, basically, for any sort of use, whether it's Amazon or anybody else. And our concerns were based on public safety, traffic, and of course the location, given its flooding conditions at certain times of the year. And the fact that it was not zoned for that use and in its original application. And so the CAC voted against it. And I'm going to assume that the applicant will probably proceed through the BZA to continue to try to have it become a transit center. He's had a hard time, you know, he built a 260,000 square foot facility, and he's had a pretty tough time leasing it. So he's probably looking for an alternative use. But in any event, that's what was took up almost the entirety of our time at the previous CAC meeting.
Thank you, Matt. Let's see, do we usually we have comments and questions after each council member speaks at this point? That makes sense to me to do it that way. I can't remember if we usually do it now or at the end. So thanks, Matt, for the update. And so am I understanding that the Glen Ellen Inn will become instead of a restaurant, it'll become a like lodging, the building itself?
Correct.
All right, any other questions? And we'll get to public comment after we go through this list. Let's see, we don't have anybody from the Glen Ellen Forum. Communications ad hoc, so that's myself and Councilmember Handren. So we're going to be at the Glen Ellen Fair. And I think Councilmember Handren, is there still a possible second vaccine clinic in the works with the health center?
It's under discussion, yeah. But
Okay.
nothing is set yet.
Uh-huh. All right, I think I don't have a whole lot to report on the communications ad hoc. Preparedness ad hoc, that would be, Councilmember Doss.
Just wanted to say what an excellent presentation Vicki Handren did at the Valley of the Moon Rotary in helping them understand the North Sonoma Valley MAC. She did a really good job and really got some people, wow, I never even knew you existed except, so very good, Vicki.
Great. Yeah, thanks for being there.
Thank you.
I scheduled it and then I couldn't be there, so Vicki stepped in. So yeah, thank you. Okay, let's see. So preparedness ad hoc. That's Councilmember Newhouser.
Yeah, I'll be brief. As you may recall, many months ago, we submitted a couple of proposals along with in cooperation with Fire Safe Sonoma as the lead agency, Sonoma Ecology Center supporting, and with the Glen Ellen Forum as a potential, as a kind of a community partner. The county funding did not come through. That was awarded to others. But we hadn't really received formal notification from CAL FIRE because we had submitted a proposal to CAL FIRE as well. And we just found out, I was just notified by Fire Safe Sonoma that we did not receive funding. We were hoping to get the funding. This was to do the kind of community analysis as a precursor to forming, fire safe community, and so that we could then start the organizing around that formal formation. So, so now we're a little bit in a lurch. I'm in communication with our partners with a request to get feedback from the funders as to why we weren't funded, how to get some input on how we could improve our proposal. We pretty much understand that the most of the funding went to perhaps higher priority, more fire-prone areas, and also to on the ground vegetation management, as opposed to organizing efforts. And so we understand the resources are limited and that they had higher priorities. But nevertheless, we will persist, and hopefully we'll get some input and be able to refine our proposal for the next round. On a more local note, one of the things that we were going to do, and I haven't checked in with Damon about this, but we were looking at doing just some experimental work within our own neighborhoods. And I've been reaching out to my neighborhood, and I've adopted a role of a safety and emergency committee chair for my little HOA here in Jack London Estates. And we're actually planning a practice evacuation drill and for the 25th. And we're also organizing a phone tree. We're kind of limiting it to evacuation warnings and orders. And it's a learning experience. I think it's good to do this work because then you realize just how stubborn people are and how difficult it is to get people organized. And so it's a real learning experience. So that was part of our plan, was to kind of work at the larger level, right? Trying to do more a global, or I should say, community-based organizing for both Kenwood and Glen Ellen, but then also to do a little bit of neighborhood organizing so that we get experience and learn what it takes to do that. And Damon, you wanted to weigh in?
Yes, thank you, Mark. I have been working with Map Your Neighborhood out of Oakmont. Katie's one of their leaders. And I've been talking to people on my street and have identified a non-MAC person who could be a co-chair with me. But interesting enough, there is resistance. It is just like in the, I think it's Dr. Brown from the county who spoke about the biases of post-event trauma, et cetera, et cetera. And there is a lack of willingness to get prepared. It is kind of interesting to me to see that manifest. However, I am working with Map Your Neighborhood out of Oakmont and also COPE out of Oakmont. And I will be trying to put together the 25 houses. We may restrict it to 18 of Lower Maple rather than all of Maple. And trying to organize in Kenwood a Map Your Neighborhood event. And we're hopeful to get that going, and we'll be meeting at the Kenwood Fire Department.
That's great. Thank you, Councilmember Duss. Yeah, Councilmember Cooper.
Damon, I don't know if you got, I must not had your right email. I sent you an email about, didn't bounce back. Anyway, my neighbor here is a guy named Daniel Isofano. He runs a company called MIG in Berkeley. Essentially, they build out cities, towns. We were talking about 2 weeks ago or so. He told me about a very extensive program they've developed in the Berkeley area, the Berkeley Hills. And I actually listened to about an hour-long presentation. I don't know if I'm out of line here either. I just did it because I was interested, because I'm on this committee. But it's really, really impressive, the organization and thought that's gone into it. They're having a meeting, I think, next week in the Bay Area, the whole bunch of Bay Area counties. But when I had tried to email Damon, I obviously didn't do a good
No,
job.
you did a good job. I was gone and now I'm back. And so
Oh,
I will follow up and I will be glad to meet with you and this gentleman and come to any meeting that's available.
oh, I think, well, then I'll introduce you to him. It'd be good for you to hear the presentation. It's a very professionally done thing. I thought it was really, really helpful, but
I'm sorry, Jed, I'm catching up on all my, I took a little road trip and
no
went to
problem.
Santa Fe and Zion Park, et cetera.
Oh, Zion's in Utah?
Zion is in Utah.
Oof. It's impressive. Okay, we'll talk. Should I talk to you directly? I don't know. Again,
I'll send you, you asked for my phone number, I'll send it to you.
okay. All right.
Thanks, Jed.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Prepared this ad hoc and let's see, let's move on to traffic and safety, which I forget who's on.
I'm the only,
I need to have a list. Yeah, any updates?
there's nothing on our agenda to present, no.
Okay. Yeah, Councilmember Doss?
Just letting Jed know that the Kenwood Fire Department board this afternoon, evening, approved the LED sign and the expenditure for the LED sign, which will really help send messages along Highway 12 regarding whatever's happening, whether it be red flag warning, fire ahead, alternate
Oh, okay.
detour. And so that LED sign, which is a 6-foot by 4-foot sign, funded primarily by the county. Thank you very much, Supervisor Gorin. Funded primarily by the county, but it'll be somewhere near the Kenwood Fire Department station on Highway 12. And that will give people traffic information, double-sided sign that will say, detour, take some road, whatever would be the right road to avoid congestion or whatever it's going to be. So it will, I'm hopeful, help traffic and information.
Okay,
That's
thanks.
great. Sounds like a good development.
Yeah.
Okay, any other updates from about anything else before we move on to public comment? Yeah, Councilmember Dickey.
Eldridge SDC ad hoc. I'm on that committee with Angela and Kate. We have met. We've sort of put together a plan of action for ourselves. And amongst the things that we have discussed, and I've brought up with both Hannah and Ariel, is that I think we would benefit from having private consultants come in and talk to us about some of the issues that we may face as SDC as expanded or developed. So we're going to put together a list. We'll probably meet with some of these people in our ad hoc, but I think a public setting for commentary on their part, whether it's a sanitation engineer or a developer or roadway experts. I think those things should be in a public setting because they're going to have an impact on our community, some of the development aspects of SDC. And in a matter of transparency, I think having those people discuss it with us would be valuable. So that's sort of the approach we're taking at the moment because there is no SDC development plan really to discuss, at least publicly. And that was the nature of our last meeting.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Dickey. And I can imagine, well, here's a question. Would having like a public meeting separate from the MAC, maybe in partnership with the forum where we could invite some of those folks to speak? Is that part of your vision?
No, I thought we would use the MAC format for those presentations. I asked Ariel and Hannah if we're able to do so. We've had obviously public agency commentary, and I was not certain as to whether or not we were allowed to have, private consultants in the private sector come in and talk to us. We are.
Can I ask a question, Matt?
Sure.
Because
Yeah, please.
I'm not sure what your aim is, and I'm also a little concerned that people isolated from the planning process may come in and provide different information than the planning team that's really neck deep into some of those issues that you just talked about. So maybe we could have a conversation about what it is you'd like to get. And we have no funding for consultants and speakers and to come in
Understood.
to the community. But maybe we can have a conversation with Brian O, the project planner, to figure out how to meet your needs, the max needs, and not have public confusion or chaos ensue.
Thank you, Susan. Okay, any other comments or updates? And okay, let's move on to public comment. So if anyone has some comments on what's been discussed concerning
First,
the,
oops, sorry, go ahead. Through the chair, I just wanted to give a reminder that Councilmember Nardo Morgan shared a report sheet.
oh yeah,
like to read.
yeah, I've got that. It's on the next page. That's why I haven't gotten to it yet. But,
All right, just want to make sure.
Okay, I'll go ahead and read that now so people can comment on it if they want. So Councilmember Nardo Morgan sent in this update about the drought signs. So we've launched our drought water awareness signs. She spoke on Monday night at the Glen Ellen Forum meeting and let everyone know about the project. The signs are popping up all over the district. And she says she was even able to hand out signs at Jack London's music night last Thursday. That was a good idea. Thank you to Susan Gorin for her strong support of this project and the Sonoma County Water Agency for printing up the signs. The signs are currently available at Swedes Feeds in Kenwood, Glen Ellen Village Market, Sonoma Valley Library, and Jack London Village. They are free to the public. I want to thank all of these establishments for stepping forward to understand the urgency of climate change and for supporting our community. And we'll probably have those signs as well at the Glen Ellen Village Fair, unless we run out before we get there. Okay, any public comments on any of the activities of the ad hocs you've been?
And just giving folks a moment, but I am not seeing any. Oh, I am seeing a raised
you're-
hand. All right.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
We have one public commenter. So
Okay.
I will go ahead and get the screen share ready. Just one moment. All right. And this is for Katie. So you should now be able to unmute yourself and you'll have 2 minutes.
Welcome, Katie.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to thank you all for the work that you've been doing for the past year. I, for one, very much appreciate it. I know a lot of people don't take the time to actually listen to the meetings, but I do hear, because we get such great reporting, especially through Jay Gamble, that neighbors do actually keep up with what is going on, and there is a great appreciation for what you do, even if you may not see it in the number of attendees, but we really do very much appreciate it. I also wanted to make a couple of specific comments that might be going back a little bit farther, but Matt Dickey, thank you very much for your service on the CAC as well, and I'm very pleased with what you made as a recommendation against the Amazon distribution. And Supervisor Gorin, thank you for voting in favor of the dispensary. I think there's a really gross misunderstanding of what dispensaries are and the purpose. When I lived in San Francisco over 15 years ago, there was a dispensary that went into an empty building on our residential block, and it actually ended up being a very positive thing for our neighborhood. There's no consumption, there's no odor. It's as if you were going to a pharmacy. And I would invite anyone who hasn't been to a dispensary just to go visit and see what it's about, because I think you'll be very surprised, and you'll be very surprised by the people who actually are the clientele. You'll see very nice cars in the parking lot, and a lot of people who are your own age. And again, just thank you, everybody, and Vicki also for your inclusiveness. I appreciate your efforts in that area very much.
Thank you, Katie. I'll consider that a birthday present for the one-year-old Mac. Any other public comments?
And seeing no further hands.
Okay, we might actually wrap it up by 7. So the last item is consideration of items for future agenda. And the 2 things I have on here are bike paths and lanes. And then had to activate the Sonoma Developmental, the SDC ad hoc, which sounds like that's already happened, which is fine. Let's see, I know that and I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I know Ariel and now Hannah has a list of possible presenters and things. I mean, I would personally be willing to speak about the bike path idea that I know a lot of people share it. I first kind of put it into a little more formalized form probably 10 years ago. So if there's an opportunity to talk about that and maybe have someone from regional parks or someone from the county who could kind of give us some feedback on how to make that happen eventually, I'd be interested in doing that sometime in the next, 6 months, let's say. Yeah, Councilmember Cooper.
Yeah, we took a look at that months ago, and I heard, I have to look it up, but somebody from the county sent me a report. It was like a 270-page report, and I kind of went through it, believe it or not. But it was done, and it ended in 2016. They spent, I think it was Caltrans, that spent like $6 million. They did a complete report. They had community meetings, and after 2000, and maybe Supervisor Gorin would know what I'm talking about, but
I think
it kind of got left, and it's really thorough. It's all lined out.
I'm not, I mean, I think I've heard of this report. I'm not sure if what I'm proposing is in that plan, but maybe it is. Supervisor Gorin may know. This is a community bikeway that stays off of the main roads. Between
This one goes from Sonoma to like Howarth Park.
Thank you, Jed, for asking. There are a couple of different things. I'm working on bike lanes and paths all over Sonoma Valley painstakingly. Jed, you're referring to the multi-use path that parallels Highway 12. And I just reviewed the potential pathway with Steve Arrett of Regional Parks. He's working with individual property owners on the alignment and design of that road from Melita Road, or the multi-use path from Melita Road to Agua Caliente. And it's going to take a while. There are a lot of property owners and a lot of creeks that have to have bridges over them, but he's on it and going great guns. We're also working on bike paths next to the railroad lines throughout the Sonoma Valley. And that's going to be a little bit longer conversation, but I've been painstakingly working with TPW on expanding Arnold Drive before north and south of the roundabout so that we can have bike lanes on Arnold Drive from the STC going south. But Arthur has done a great job of creating a bike path, a recreational bike path that winds from the neighborhood through STC to Glen Ellen. And that's a different path than what we're talking about. So this is great work. And if we could live that long enough, we could just be bicycling all over the valley.
All right. Yeah.
Susan, it'd be great to have a presentation that includes all those things,
And absolutely. So that could be one of your next topics. And Steve is not ready to reveal potential alignments, but absolutely, he's hard at work on a lot of those projects.
All right, we'll put him down as a possible presenter. Yeah, Councilmember Newhouser.
Well, this is a couple of comments. One is related to the bike paths. Warm Springs Road is so dangerous for pedestrians and bicyclists. It is just impossible. I can't even go a mile to go to the grocery store in town because you take your life in your own hands. So my question is, are any of these plans addressing, a bike path along Warm Springs Road? No, I didn't think so.
No.
And I realized, there's another issue that has come up, and I've even gotten letters from the county asking about giving an exception or exemption to property owners who build fences within the right of way. And my biggest concern is that if we give these exemptions, that will preclude us from adding bicycle paths later because they will have to widen the road. So I'm very concerned about that, especially after the fire. A lot of people built more and longer fences in the right of way. So anyway, that's just another issue, but.
So Mark, why don't you chat with me about that? I'm a little concerned to hear you say that they're getting exemptions to put fences in the right of way, because I think that's news to me. So let's chat about that offline.
I'd be more than happy to do that. I might even have the old email from when the requests came out, because I'm sure there was a hearing about it. It might have been a fence that was built and the property changed hands, and then someone complained about it. Because you know how it is. It's like, if you're going to build in this distance, it has to be less than 3 feet or 4 feet. And if it's going to be a further distance, then you can put like a 6-foot fence. And so there's all these rules, right? Nevertheless, I am concerned about the ability to widen the road later if we ever do get a bike path, because we need.
If we ever do have $1 million to repave that road.
Well, and it was repaved recently in July.
I know.
They did an
I asked our
job.
director, could you widen it as much as you can? We don't have a lot of right of way along that road.
No, they made it just wide enough for 2 lanes of travel, and that's it.
Yeah,
Anyway.
well, we take our bike on it, and we have been honked at, but they're just gonna have to be patient.
So anyway, sorry it's taking so long, but second part of this, it's getting back to topics for our agenda. And with our kind of newfound power and our ability to, as a MAC, to issue letters of support for whatever cause we can agree on, I think it would be great to have a discussion about what items we would like to research and develop, opinions or recommendations that we can then issue letters for. I think it would be really helpful. I mean, it could just come out of each individual ad hoc committee. I think it might be good to have a group-wide focus to develop a list of things that we would like to address, for what it's worth.
I like that idea. Yeah. All right. Any other final thoughts? Future agenda items? All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move to adjourn.
All right. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor of adjourning the meeting? Raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, unanimously passed. The meeting is now adjourned at 7:04 p.m. And thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you.
And I appreciate your service. And
Good night, folks.
good to
Be
see
healthy
everybody.
and safe, everybody.
Hey, Arthur. Is he gone?
I'm here. Who's that?
Oh, hey, this is Alyssa. I'm just working on the historic Sonoma Plaza project. I wanted to say hi.
Oh, yeah.
Your name kept coming up. I'm like, I know him. I do the minutes on that meeting.
I just started working on what maybe the last one that I do, which is about the women's club and how they were instrumental in creating the plaza that we have today.
Oh, cool. I'm excited to check it all out. We're going to have so much fun.
It's been a fun project. Yeah, it's a challenge to boil it all down into just a couple hundred words. But there's for those of you who don't know about it, it's about 11 or 12 little sort of vignettes of the history of Sonoma Plaza.
Great. It looks like the meeting's still recording, so I'm gonna go ahead and shut us down. But good night,
Okay.
everyone.
All right, thanks,
All right,
bye.
Alyssa, thanks for saying hi. Yeah.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
talk to you soon.